Today's episode is brought to you by NetSuite and Wix Studio.
This is Marketing Over Coffee with Christopher Penn and John Wall.
Good morning. Welcome to Marketing Over Coffee. I'm John Wall. Today, our guest is Missy Maio. She's a 25-year veteran in QSR and hospitality, and she is with Gong Cha. She's going to tell us about what they have going on in their space. This brand has exploded, spanning the globe now, and she has a great history. She's going to tell us about her time, which includes Dunkin', and this very show was founded at Dunkin' Donuts almost 20 years ago. Missy, thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
Now, because of my daughter, I'm aware of bubble tea and what's going on in this space, but tell us about Gong Cha. What do you guys do? Who are your customers? Give us the quick overview.
Right. So we're a bubble tea chain with more than 2,200 stores in the world, over the globe, and about 500 in the Americas right now.
Now, tell us about the path that got you there. You know, as you started your career, what did you initially get into and what finally got you all the way to Gong Cha?
Yeah. So it's interesting. Many marketers and salespeople begin in marketing and sales, but I actually began in operations. I spent about a dozen years with Aramark running national school lunch programs, in different markets in the Northeast. In between, I transitioned over to Coca-Cola, where I had my first experience in the beverage brands. And then I led myself into QSR, straight up marketing. So Burger King, Dunkin', and Church's Chicken. Having that operations and sales background really led me to be able to manage marketing in this space.
Right. And so you started out on the ops side, actually getting the work done. Along the way there, how did you pick up your education in sales and marketing as you went? Was it the normal challenge of, you kind of had to do more and more sales related stuff and marketing came into it? Or how did that go?
I went to work for Coca-Cola as the local college market development manager, which started to lead me into marketing a little bit, but gave me the opportunity to start exploring partnerships. And then from there, I actually had an interesting couple of years where I went to work for the leading mountain resort development company called IntraWest, where they were managing, skiing and snowboarding in different places in the U.S. So it was really very unusual. And I remember one day a Burger King franchisee walked in to become a partner of the mountain that I was working in. And so that's really how I got from operations into sales and straight into marketing.
Okay, well, and we're going to talk about it more. There's a ton of partnerships that you've got going on with Gong Cha and a bunch of interesting stuff there. But let's get back a little bit to the customers. So is it now bubble tea is an exploding product in the beverage industry, but tell us a little bit more. So these locations, is it basically QSR? Customers come in, they buy off the menu, the standard setup there?
It is. So we're a standalone store. We've got hundreds of combinations that you can make of our drinks, but we have what we call the top 10 drinks, and that is primarily what our Asian roots customer will drink. And our studies show that, our customer really is a 16 to 34 split between male and female, but our story tells a different story of really a very heavy female, young, adventurous, trend savvy, with a very vibrant digital footprint. And so, anything that's trendy and fun, that's our consumer. They want to be part of that trend and they want to be part of that history of the bubble tea and the Asian roots, but then they also like it with a Western flair.
Mm-hmm. And so does this shape your strategy for going for these partnerships? Are you always looking for trendy things or kind of what goes into making that strategy for you?
Yeah. We love to link what our consumers want and crave at that moment. Our Gen Z consumer loves collecting. They love nostalgia. They love being authentic and technology. And then they like gathering with friends and family. So we really look to do partnerships that, when possible, really link all of these items to really hook them and get them in through the door.
Yeah. All right. So you've done a bunch of different stuff, everything from video games, cartoons, and even Frank's Red Hot. I wanted to ask about that. What did you guys do with Frank's?
Yeah. So, early last summer, we noticed a trend on spicy, which is that sweet spicy, and we capitalized on it. We partnered with Frank's. It was just a 4-week initiative. And it really was intentionally controversial. Who would be drinking their favorite sweet slush drinks from Gong Cha and then adding that spicy hot to it. And we did that to spark conversation and, engage our influencers and our consumers, as well as, our entire Gong Cha community.
How do these things even come to light? I mean, do you have a strategy session where you say, hey, maybe something would work with Frank's, or did they solicit you? How would something like that come together?
So we solicited them. It was in conjunction with our agencies at the time as we were brainstorming as to what trends were hot and that we can bring into the stores, as well as, how do we because we know where our calendar is for the 12 months. And then, we look for those partnerships, ideally 18 months out. But you know how QSR is. Sometimes you have a window of time and you need to put something in that window that's very on trend, that isn't very difficult to manage. And Frank's really hit upon that.
Okay, we're going to talk more about other partnerships and also being a global organization, the challenges that you face with that. We just have to take a second. We want to thank Wix Studio for their support of Marketing Over Coffee. Digital marketers, this one's for you. I've got 30 seconds to tell you about Wix Studio, the web platform for agencies and enterprises. So here are a few things you can do in 30 seconds or less when you manage projects on Wix Studio. Work in sync with your team on one canvas. Reuse templates, widgets, and sections across sites. Create a client kit for seamless handovers. And leverage best-in-class SEO defaults across all your Wix sites. Time's up, but the list keeps going. Step into Wix Studio to see more. Head on over to wixstudio.com to check it out, and we thank them for their support of the show. What are some of the favorite ones that you've done? Ones that, the campaign went off and you thought, oh, that went really good, or just for some reason you enjoyed it more than some of the other ones?
Last year was our first year. So I've been here just over 2 years. And last year, in my full second year, that was the year that we started looking at the brands that we could partner with that really would bring, what they do that's best to the table with us. And so one of the ones that we did last year was partnership with Hershey's. And we did a cookies and cream partnership in store, purchased those mix-ins locally directly from Hershey's and one of their vendor partners. And it really was something that resonated with our consumers. They know what that tea drinks are, but adding a cookies and cream element to it, especially in the springtime, really helped us ramp up those flavors and again, bring that piece of Western culture into what was traditionally an Asian-based brand and partnerships and flavors.
Okay. And then, of course, video games, but, the monster category in the last decade, we've tracked how they've beaten out movies, even, as far as just volume and dollars. What went into that one there? How did that go?
So the Final Fantasy promotion was negotiated by our global partners, which was great. It reduced the stress on our very small team here in the Americas. And that allowed us to take the assets and then regionalize them for ourselves. It was huge. We went after a new consumer, the gamers. We provided them with something that was, a code that allowed them to get a mount for a game that they couldn't get anywhere else. At the same time, it came with a little controversy because the stores were slammed and consumers were buying $20 worth of drinks just to get this, this scratch card that gave them this code for this mount. We also did other in-store giveaways and purchases, a unique keychain that was again for the Final Fantasy. I think honestly, we ordered a lot here in the Americas, but we probably didn't order enough. Our consumers went absolutely crazy for this and really led us to understanding that we really are partnerships in the future. We will definitely lead a little more to some more video and trend and technology to make sure that we're hitting all our consumers, male and females, in that right demographic age.
Okay. Well, and so that's a nice lead into the fact that, you're leading the American division of this global company. How do you have to tailor the strategies? I mean, do you get a fixed number of campaigns come down from global and then you do your own local stuff, or how does that mix work?
So, so I manage what's known as a brand marketing fund. And so, we first wait to see what global is going to provide to us for the year. We participate like this year in an innovation session that was in Singapore, where all the marketers from around the world met, and we met in the offices of Kerry, who's a strategic partner of ours. And, and we looked at, where are the trends for the next 18, 24 months? Of course, I always have my favorites. So I quickly pull those because I know that global won't be able to supply, everything for a full 12 months. And so, we start to build out, like I've built out the 2026 calendar right now. And while it's just kind of in that stages of with a pencil, we know what we want and, we'll backfill here in the Americas. So if global gives us 3 of the 6 or 7 programs, we'll then create the balance of the programs here in the Americas.
Yeah, right. I can see that's just kind of an ongoing. You're sort of playing Tetris to get all these pieces to fit together and work as things move and change as they go.
Yes.
How about as far as rollout across the Americas? Is there a system that's now pretty solid as far as you being able to get these programs out and get them to work? How does that all go?
Yeah. So, so we're thrilled here in the Americas with how things are going. When I started here, there was no brand marketing fund, which meant franchisees, each of the master franchisees kind of did their own thing, which meant for a consumer, if you went in a store in New York and you went in a store in California, you'd see it and feel a totally different experience. Now we have all of our franchisees in the US under one umbrella with the brand marketing fund, and every store advertises and promotes the same LTO or partnership. Because of the way that funding works, our Canada's and Mexico and Latin America, they can opt into those programs. So when we did Peanuts earlier this year, Mexico had already done a program with Peanuts, so the timing didn't work for them, but both Eastern and Western Canada participated with our Peanuts promotion. And our goal really is to have everyone in the Americas promoting the same thing, even though sometimes taste preferences change a little.
That's crazy to me. I just never would have expected that Mexico would have the jump on the United States and Peanuts. I didn't think that brand even had any pull down there, but that's amazing.
We do. We have over 100 stores. So we're definitely a force to be reckoned with in Mexico.
Oh, yeah. No, I'm not surprised about you guys being in Mexico. That's dead on. It's more that I didn't know that Mexico knew that Charlie Brown was a thing at all.
Everybody knows that Charlie Brown and Snoopy is a thing.
That's a worldwide thing. How about campaigns then from other parts of the world? Have there been any that you've picked out that you thought this would work here in the States?
So actually, Peanuts came from our partners in Australia, New Zealand. They had done a partnership about a year prior to us and was so successful, and so many consumers in the digital space were asking about it that we actually went to Peanuts and we did a promotion with them direct.
And so now, and one thing I noticed when that promotion was running, the cup topper had the characters on there, and you talked about having scratch off cards for the video games for digital assets that you can only get through the store. What other kind of things? And of course, obviously, the big one that we're skipping is stuff on the menu, drinks that are tied to this. But how many other, levers and knobs can you push and pull to do these things?
I would say a couple each time. So, as we're talking about the balance of this year and what do we want to bring in, and we've got this cool idea, but if we bring it in, it can only be used once. So, we did do tumblers for Snoopy that sold out in record time. And then we did a gift with purchase that was the Snoopy straw topper. I think that consumers will get tired of the same thing. So you've always got to be creative and inventive to really get those unique things to the consumers that the consumers want.
Okay. And then another thing, as a customer, I do have to say, you've done a great job with text messaging campaigns. I'm getting special offers on a regular basis. And this is a great marketing tip, a tactic that I had never seen before until you started doing it, is the opting in. When you get a coupon, it says, hey, say yes to activate this coupon. So you're keeping that back and forth going instead of it just being broadcast. But tell us more, is text a regular part of the strategies, or is that a separate part of the org?
Yes. So we work with SumUp 5 stars, as the loyalty platform that does enable that authentication to text, but not all stores use them right now. So this allows MFs or the stores to send direct messages to our loyal guests and then track engagement. We did our first ever value platform message this year in January. So we offered a BOGO. That system was able to message directly to the consumer. And we saw a 29% lift in sales on those BOGO days, which was incredible. Our other program that doesn't have that technology where you can text the consumer, we had positive results as well, not quite as good as being able to direct text consumer. And so our goal is one unified program by the end of 2025, where we'll be able to have stores will be able to create their own campaigns, but then also nationally, we'll be able to create campaigns that go directly to the consumer, actually the most loyal consumer.
So then, am I right in saying that text is a critical component of this? You've seen that it does drive action and movement.
So I'm going to say yes, but that's only as of 2025. We really didn't take advantage of it prior to January of this year.
Oh, that's interesting.
I mean, let me step that back. Some franchisees took advantage of that, but not from a U.S. perspective for a a value offer. Remember, this brand kind of grew up prior to COVID. And while you see all of the value wars out there in QSR right now, Gong Cha never had to worry about it. Now, with all the value wars out there, we're trying to create tactics that not only drive the value, but then drive ticket and drive consumers to keep coming back. We want to give value in more ways than just discounting programs. But right now, finding that loyal user and giving them that opportunity to have that loyal based offer has been critical. And we know that that'll be critical to our success in the future.
Yeah, and that makes me think, talking about value-based, you were talking about challenges going on there. I mean, I don't want to say you're a luxury brand, but it's definitely, you have a lot more product customization and a lot more service as part of the mix. But do you kind of feel that you still have to fight against every other beverage company out of there?
We do. And sometimes we look at our business as a fast casual versus QSR, although it kind of like somewhere sits in between because it's an experience. It's not, you're not just going in simply for that Whopper meal or breakfast meal from a Dunkin'. And so, yeah, we like everyone else, and everyone else in the beverage and food space right now is competing for that share of stomach.
All right, well, we're going to talk about what you've got your eye on for the future and a bunch of other things. We just have to take a second. We want to thank NetSuite by Oracle for their support of Marketing Over Coffee. Marketing Over Coffee listeners are not strangers to disruption, whether it's markets, technology, inflation. There is no crystal ball. But our listeners and clients have learned that if you want to prepare for growth, go with NetSuite by Oracle. You can waste your time stringing together small business solutions, or you can prepare your organization for growth. Over 41,000 businesses have future-proofed their business with NetSuite by Oracle, the #1 cloud ERP, bringing accounting, financial management, inventory, HR into one fluid platform. With one unified business management suite, there's one source of truth, giving you the visibility and control you need to make quick decisions. With real-time insights and forecasting, you're peering into the future with actionable data. When you're closing the books in days, not weeks, you're spending less time looking backward and more time on what's next. Yeah, again, we hear over and over again that it's just worth doing this. As your business gets more and more complicated, the more vendors you have, the tougher it's going to get to manage and the more complicated it's going to get. By going with a single provider, you've got that single source of truth. It's just easier to manage. You can spend your time concentrating on what's growing the business, not managing stuff on the back end. Whether your company is earning millions or even hundreds of millions, NetSuite helps you respond to immediate challenges and seize your biggest opportunities. Speaking of opportunity, download the CFO's Guide to AI and Machine Learning at netsuite.com/coffee. The guide is free to you at netsuite.com/coffee. Again, netsuite.com/coffee. netsuite.com/coffee, and we thank them for their support of the show. Okay, there's a whole bunch of marketing challenges that go into franchisees and trying to make things work and coordinate campaigns. But you were the first to do a managed fund for this kind of stuff. So talk about that, getting that set up and what that does and how it changes the game.
Prior to arriving here, this was a master franchisee-led business. And so the master franchisees really focused on their own core business in their areas. And there really was not any additional support from a marketing perspective to these master franchisees. I was hired to create, establish, and manage this U.S. marketing fund. And so I started here and there was no fund. We just came on board and we built the presentation decks, and literally one by one, we got all our MFs across the US to contribute, creating that one unified marketing voice. So now when you go into a store for, say, Lunar New Year in New York, and you get your scratch card, you get your same scratch card in California on those same days.
Right. And so is that obviously a blessing of corporate to do that, but that is entirely funded by the franchisees, or what goes into all that?
Yeah, it is. It's funded by the franchisees. There is some support over those first 3 years where Gong Cha Global was helping to support as well and get it off the ground. But like most marketing organizations in QSR, it is funded 100% by franchisees, their royalties or their fees. And this was a brand new fund. So this was, a specific percentage that was changed in their contract to specifically promote marketing in the US.
And then you've got once a year, you're going to check out the global programs, everything that's going on. Do you have to meet with the franchisees quarterly or monthly to talk about what's going on and inform them of the new programs and get feedback?
So we do a quarterly all franchisee, and it's a call versus in person because of how spread out and diverse our franchisees are. But then we do what I call a top three, my top three MFs in the U.S. who really control the messaging, and we want to make sure that they're involved 100% and aligned. So we do those calls once a month, quarterly to all franchisees, and then have ongoing conversations when we're looking for new ideas and feedback and support from those franchisees.
So what advice would you have to marketers that are working in the franchise space, and what should they be thinking about to help grow the company?
Yeah, this one's pretty easy. Listen to your franchisees. They are on the front lines. I've been in franchise, I don't know, 20, 25 years, and I can tell you that franchisees are the smartest group of people. They provide you with insights that you could never know because they're on the front lines. And if you want to grow into these new spaces, you want to collaborate with well-known food, lifestyle brands, and then you want the franchisees to be on board with you.
Right. Okay. So you've got definitely the franchisees who've got that frontline experience. They're actually dealing with the customer and see what's happening in the world. But how about beverage marketing trends? What are you paying close attention to over now that you're working on 2026? What kind of stuff is on your radar?
We have multiple listening capabilities across different platforms. So we've got a partnership with Tastewise, which is a global site that allows us to tap into some of those ideas and upcoming trends. We also partner with Kerry, who is one of our primary partners right now, is really bringing all those trends straight to the forefront. We often do consumer validation and testing as well after we get done with a session with our partners on innovation. So we're really looking at what the consumer says, what the franchisee says, what our partners bring, and then of course how we feel about it as well, because it's really, if you don't love it yourself, it's really hard to market. So we make sure that everything is aligned.
Yes, absolutely. There's no greater torture for a marketer than to have to work on something that their heart's not in.
Yeah.
A rough sell. Okay, so I was checking out your LinkedIn profile, and there was some stuff about the Boston Marathon in there. Have you run it before? Are you a fan? What's the story there?
So I have run it. I've actually run it twice. Once virtual in the year of COVID, because my qualifying time when I ran Tokyo, they canceled Boston. And then by the time I was able to do Boston, my time was no longer part of the qualifying window. But I've run all 6 world majors. And so I'm pretty stoked about that. I finished that in 2021. And they just added a 7th, Sydney. So I had said I wasn't running another marathon unless they added another world major. So we'll see about September 2026, because I'm not sure I want to go through that training again.
Because you're good. Well, and so you're qualifying time too.
I did. Yes.
Yeah, that's nuts.
With all the experience I have in life, we meaning age, it means my times. I get a little more on my time, but I can't compete with a 25-year-old. But I did get that qualifying time for Boston.
Yeah, and for any age at Boston, I mean, it's even frightening at 90 plus. There's a number on there that's tough. But that's amazing. So you've logged lots of miles. I basically cheated and paid charity, to get myself a number to
That's okay. You ran and probably hopefully had a great experience as well.
Survived. Yeah, that's right now. Okay. And then I did want to ask you too, because you spent many years at Dunkin', and of course the show we initially started at Dunkin' Donuts in Natick. That was where we would record, before heading into work years and years ago. But tell us about that. Is there anything about Dunkin' that we should know, or, inside secrets or something that you could tell and share with the fans?
Yeah, I'm going to tell you that, just like all franchise brands, the franchise system is incredibly supportive. Despite lots of leadership changes while I was there, they all continue to work together to ensure they remain successful. So, because without franchisees coming in and backing you up and supporting you, you won't ever be successful in your market. And so, I would say that the franchisee network truly is the backbone to the success at Dunkin'.
Okay. And then another thing that I wanted to ask you about too, as you go, so you've been through all these amazing companies, different brands, but leaders in the brand. And is there anything along the way that pulled you through? Is there a team of people that you've gone with, or did you have some kind of, you were just like, it's all about product and these are the ones that my heart are in? Or what made you make those jumps?
Yeah. So each one was really unique and individual. But I would say, while I didn't travel with a group of people from like company to company, I would say at each company, while I was there and loved what I was doing, it was all about the leader there. So, when I was at Aramark initially, I had a leader that was just phenomenal. Coca-Cola, same thing, phenomenal leader. Interest, phenomenal leader. Straight down and Dunkin', Burger King, everywhere I went that I had extended amount of time was all about an awesome leader. So it did, provided less chaos at the brand. I could tell you right now, Jeff Henry, who's the leader here in the Americas, for Gong Cha, also is an awesome leader. And as he's grown this team from 2 to 16 in the past 2 years, you've got to have heart and smarts to be able to kind of pull it all together. And he does.
That's fantastic advice. Yeah, this is, a mistake that I've made in my career over the years is you get sucked in by product. You think about the product is the answer and being able to get to the market. But if you don't have the leadership, it's horrible. And then the inverse, which I had not learned until, late enough, was that if you've got the right team, they will figure out the product. They can get there. They can solve those problems. And so I'll give a plug too for Simon Sinek, Leaders Eat Last, our interview. I'll put a link in the show notes to that since we're talking about leadership. That book is fantastic. As we wind down here, have you had anything that you've read or watched or listened to that you could recommend to our audience? Anything that's made an impact on you recently?
I think years ago, one of the leaders at Burger King gave everybody the book Good to Great. And, it's funny because our president here today is constantly referring to it. So I would say, I think we all get kind of sometimes down into our own world and thinking how great of a job we're doing, but sometimes it's just good. Right. And so how do you take that really good to become great? And I can tell you for 2025, that is the year for Gong Cha to go from good to great.
All right. Yeah, we'll have links to that in the show notes. Jim Collins' classic book. It's about as rock solid as a recommendation as you'll get for business stuff. And of course, you can sign up for the Marketing Over text line at 617-812-5494. Missy, thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
All right. That'll do it for this week. So until next week, enjoy the coffee.
You've been listening to Marketing Over Coffee. Christopher Penn blogs at christopherspenn.com. Read more from John J. Wall at jw5150.com. The Marketing Over Coffee theme song is called Mellow G by Funk Masters, and you can find it at Musical.ly from Mevio or follow the link in our show notes.